Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to Football Theory. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by my good friend and esteemed colleague, my man Jeff Howe, joining us for Football Theory as always. We're going to get into, two topics here. We'll get into one topic on offense, one topic on defense. On offense, we'll talk about what the running game is going to look like. With no CJ Baxter, not sure about Trey Wisner, but, even if you're the Longhorns, you want to be cautious. Maybe they'll keep him out. And if he is going to be out there, probably going to be on a pitch count. Probably a very strict pitch count at that. So what's the running game going to look like? We got a bit of a sneak peek of what the running game will look like without your top two running backs. That may be the case versus Sam Houston State. So we'll talk about that. And on the defensive side of the ball, how do you get this pass rush going? Is it as simple as getting Colin Simmons going schematically? Is there something you can do to juice the pass rush? I don't know if it's concerning yet because defense is playing really well, but I think we all thought the Texas pass rush would have asserted itself by now. That has not been the case through the first three games. So we'll get into that. All right, but first, let's thank one of our sponsors for Football Theory. Let's thank our friends over at Duck Camp for Football Theory. Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right here in the great city of Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics, Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook 'em. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com. Thank you very much to our friends over at Duck Camp. All right, Jeff, let's dive into it. I want to start on offense and start out with the running game specifically because, all right, they have the best friend of a quarterback who's struggling and dealing with some of those growing pains can be a consistent running game. No CJ Baxter because he's dealing with the injury, and best case scenario, if Trey Wisner plays, he'll be on a very strict pitch count versus Sam Houston State. So what's the run game going to look like? One thing that was intriguing to me that we saw versus UTEP was in the first two games of the season, we saw the Longhorns be more of a, based on Pro Football Focus numbers, more of a gap power scheme run team than they were a zone blocking run team. That's important in the run game because last season, Texas was top 10 in outside zone run rate. Trey Wisner was top 10 in rushing yards on the outside zone concept. It was definitely that bread and butter run play. And when they got shut down, we see it was hard times for that Texas running game. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Rita size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size. But in this game, when CJ Baxter went down, they went back to last year's pretty much identity in the run game. They actually had more zone runs than gap power runs for the first time all season. Is that something we'll probably see again? Like, what do you expect to see from this running game with the top two rushers being out or definitely limited?
I think what we see in this game, Rod, is pretty much going to be okay. Well, this is where the identity of the run game is going to go because, Sark has made no bones about it this week a couple of times. We've heard him speak the press conference on Monday, and then he mentioned again in the SEC teleconference on Wednesday. Like, they really try to force feed the run game. Like, they really wanted to try to establish the run against UTEP. And I think it was a lot of, hey, let's figure out what this offensive line does well. And did you do that to the detriment of the offense? Maybe. That's up for debate, but they really wanted to try to run the football. And it seems, Rod, at least to me, like this offensive line still needs some time together to become a really good zone blocking offensive line. I don't think that should surprise anybody because it takes an offensive line a lot of snaps, a lot of time, a lot of banked reps to become a really good zone blocking offensive line. What's interesting to me, though, is with James Simon, who was the biggest bright spot, I think, without question, on offense against UTEP. If you look at him according to PFF, Rod, 11 of his 16 carries, and again, he had 17 because he had the one where he fell in the fumble, but of the 16 times he ran the football, 11 of them were on zone runs. And I feel like just his vision, his ability to stick a foot in the ground and get vertical, he just seems to have a better natural feel running the football right now than either Jarrett Gibson or Christian Clark. And Rod, we know, man, the best zone runners are the guys that just have a natural feel. They might not be the fastest guys. They might not be the most powerful guys, but it's the same reason why Trey Wisner is a great zone runner. You've got the patience, you've got the vision, and then you've got enough athletic ability to stick a foot in the ground and get vertical when you do see it. So I wouldn't be surprised, Rod, if this is a James Simon game. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see more zone runs, because while it does take an offensive line a while to be a good zone run blocking team, if you can hit the zone runs right, and you specifically, if you can read the cutback lane and you can get some chunk yardage plays off of that, it actually takes some of the pressure off of your offensive line. Like, the hardest thing about an offensive lineman blocking zone runs is just trying to remember the rules, like not letting anything cross your face, or are you chipping and climbing to the next level. So it's a lot more intricate. It's a lot more feel, rather than a gap scheme where it's you are going here, you are blocking down, you are kicking out, et cetera, et cetera. It's more of kind of your football instincts taking over. Which, yes, believe it or not, folks, offensive linemen do have football instincts. So it does give you a little bit of margin for error, though, if you do have a great zoner. And we talked about it, Rod. James Simon's your best back right now with Wisner and Baxter out. He's your best back right now in terms of maximizing runs. Think about this. He's only played the one game. He's already second on the team in missed tackles forced, according to Pro Football Focus.
That's crazy.
By the way, Arch Manning is your leader in missed tackles forced. I didn't think we'd be talking about that after 3 games, but here we are.
Leading rusher. He's your leading rusher, right?
Exactly. But James Simon and Jarrett Gibson both have 5 missed tackles forced. James Simon averaging over 4 yards after contact per attempt. So, yeah, I mean, I want to see more James Simon in the run game, Rod. And if that's the case, I didn't think we'd be thinking about that. But, yeah, it might be a more zone-based run game, because James Simon does seem to have a better feel for it.
Yep, and I love that, and I'm sure every scheme does this, of course, but the running game does seem to shift and evolve and is malleable based on the back that's in there, because some guys, they're just really good at running certain concepts. And to your point about Trey Wisner and him running the outside zone, and Texas was a heavy outside zone last year because he ended up being kind of their lead, he ended up being their lead back when it was all said and done. And this year, when Cedric Baxter was ahead of schedule, Texas, I don't know, saying they were making him their lead back, but seems like they were running more gap power schemes to highlight his strengths as a player, which is a downhill runner. So I went and looked at all the runs in that game versus UTEP. There were at least 5 yards to make it generally a successful run, right? At least 5 yards. And I went and tried to look at the actual run concept. Not always easy to do, but I did my best. And the outside zone runs, I counted 11 runs. There was some variation of outside zone read, outside zone, different concepts of it, split zone, whatever. But it was an outside zone run. I counted 11 of them. There were at least 5 yards or more. And Simon had 5 of the 11, to your point. And Gibson was at 3 of those, at 3 of the 11. And Clark was at 2 of the 11, and that was a Matthew Caldwell zone read run, if y'all recall that late in the game. Yep. So to your point, seems like your successful runs there were at least 5 yards off of the outside zone concept. That James Simon that has kind of hit the ground running, literally, with that concept. I looked at the counters. I counted, no pun intended there, 5 counter plays that got you at least 5 yards. 2 of them were QB counters, so shout out to Arch. But then it was Clark, who seemed to be, at least your best counter runner in those situations. He got 2 of those off those counter runs, at least 5 yards. And I think Gibson had 1. And when I looked at inside power concepts, Gibson had 2 and Simon had 2, no Clark, in terms of those power runs that gave you at least 5 yards. So I think there is something to, because there was James Simon didn't show up in your counters that got you at least 5 yards.
Right.
It seems like either they used him more when they were running outside zone concepts, or when he did run counter, couldn't pop it, couldn't quite get the timing down, or whatever it may be. So I think you're right. I think certain guys just have instincts for certain concepts, or their skill sets very compatible with certain concepts. Definitely seems to be the case with James Simon and that outside zone. All right, there you go. And also, you've talked about it. I've talked about it. Your most successful run game concept or scheme is your quarterback run game.
Yep.
Jeff just mentioned it. It is design runs for Arch. He's averaging over 5 yards per design run, almost 5.5. Scrambles, he's averaging over 7.5 yards per rush on scrambles. And if you just combine all of his rushes, they got him at over 6 yards per rush right now. So he's Seems like Arch, the Arch +1 in the running game, that is something that's definitely working for the Texas offense. They're going to need more of it going forward. All right, let's jump to the other side of the ball, Jeff, and let's talk about the Texas defense a little bit. It seems like some people may have, myself included, I think I may have overestimated how quickly this Texas pass rush was going to get going because it has not happened just yet.
Yeah, and I think even you look at the PFF numbers, go back to the Ohio State game. They only had 5 pressures in that game, so that's skewing it a little bit, just because again, we've talked about this a lot, but that game plan that Ryan Day and Brian Hartline put together really insulated Julian Sayin. Like they didn't really ask him to go try to win the game, which was smart for a young quarterback in his first start in a game of that magnitude. But I started looking at it, Rod, and the sack numbers aren't there. Texas right now just kind of middle of the road in terms of sacks. They've got 6 sacks on the year. That's right in the middle of the pack in the SEC, 69th nationally. They're actually tied with Missouri in the SEC. And looking at the pressure numbers, I just went through and did some napkin math over Pro Football Focus. Texas tied with Texas A&M right now, 8th in the SEC with 46 pressures. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but keep in mind, they only have 5 against Ohio State. So 39 of your 46 pressures have come in the last 2 games. Now, the problem with that is your pressure to sack rate, the last 2 quarterbacks you faced, obviously it was 0 against Julian Sayin, but Walker Eggett from San Jose State, 17.6% pressure to sack rate. Malachi Nelson, 18.2% pressure to sack rate. So you're getting there. It's just, I think, taking a little bit longer than we would like. But, Rod, you talked about explosive plays on offense. Like, man, if you can't get right against Sam Houston, we're having much different conversations come next week. Your pass rush should be able to get right because out of 136 offensive lines in the FBS, Sam Houston State's tied for 108 in pass blocking efficiency. According to Pro Football Focus, they've allowed 33 pressures this year. Only 9 FBS offensive lines have allowed more. Look at their 2 quarterbacks. Hunter Watson, he's been under pressure 38.2% of his dropbacks, 26 pressures, 4 sacks. It's a 15.4 pressure to sack ratio, which is decent. The guy you want to get is if you can get the young kid, maybe Matoyer, if he's behind center, he's been under pressure 31.3% of his dropbacks, 15 pressures, 5 sacks. That means pretty much 1 in every 3 pressures against him gets home. Time to throw for both of these guys, Rod, time in the pocket from snap to ball getting out, 2.94 seconds for Hunter Watson. For maybe Matoyer, 3.08 seconds. So these guys hold the ball a little longer. This isn't a very good offensive line. You should be able to get some of your pressures home this week. And we know PK, he's been more of a blitz guy early on this year than he's been the last few years. Yeah. But this should be week, Rod, where he probably doesn't need to bring the heat. You should be able to get that organic pass rush and get after Sam Houston and go into SEC play feeling much better about your pass rush given the sack numbers you could pile up on Saturday compared to how you feel right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I mean, that's considering I don't know what Sam Houston State's game plan is going to be to neutralize the pressure, probably just get rid of the football really quickly. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I can't wait to see Colin Simmons get going. I think they got to use Anthony Hill as a pass rusher more too. Not your linebackers are playing so well. Anthony Smith playing really well. Young LaFau is playing at a really high level too. I would think about being able to putting him in a roaming situation at times. We can roam and on the edge, or you can blitz him through some of those interior gaps. Because I don't know if I'm trying to see how often I've seen them rush the passer this year. Now I know they haven't broke out any of their exotic looks, probably saving that for the SEC. I get that, but whenever they start breaking those looks out, Anthony Hill needs to be weaponized as a pass rusher. I've said that before. If he doesn't have 100 pass rush snaps this year, at least I'll be very disappointed because he hasn't had 100 pass rush snaps since he's been here at Texas, and he's arguably one of the best pass rushers in the country at the linebacker.
The other thing too, Rod, if you're facing a team that wants to get the ball out quick, and again, some of this is scheme dependent, depending on what kind of passing game concepts they're running. I'll give the floor to you. I would think you'd probably want to play more man coverage, specifically more press man, to try to disrupt some timing. That way, if they do want to try to get the ball out quick, if you're disrupting timing, you give your pass rush maybe that half second, full second extra to get to the quarterback, that could help your sack numbers out. So I don't know, Rod, how they want to play on the back end, but I would think, hey, if you really want your pass rush to get home, if you want that to be the emphasis this week, we might see more press man in this game.
It's not a bad idea. Force the quarterback to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. I'm with you on that. All right. Good stuff, Jeff. As always, let's thank another sponsor before we end today's program. Let's thank our friends over at Advanced Pain Care with a very special message from two legendary Lifetime moments.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right. Thank you to our friends at Advanced Pain Care, and thank you to our friends over at Duck Camp as well, duckcamp.com. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate the expertise and the knowledge. I always leave here a smarter football theorist because of your great intel. Thanks to Matthew behind the scenes, always doing a great job. He's the real MVP. And thanks to each and every one of you for watching and for listening, and for Jeff and for Matthew and for our friends over at duckcamp.com. And thanks to our friends at Advanced Pain Care as well. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Okay.